My name is Annemarie Reilly. I am the Executive Vice President for Strategy and Organizational Development at Catholic Relief Services. And for those of you who maybe don't know Catholic Relief Services, we celebrated our 75th anniversary this year. We were created in 1943 to respond to the needs of refugees during World War II, and have since then, over the years, continued to work in humanitarian relief and across 8 technical sectors in development. I am also an alum of Notre Dame, and feel that I'd like to talk a little bit about the strategy. I was asked to reflect on the strategy for IGD a little bit first from the perspective of a former student, also from the perspective of a practitioner working for a large Catholic international NGO, and from the perspective of someone who's responsible for strategy. And I might kind of mix those all together in my remarks. But first to say that when I was reading through the document, reading through the strategy, but also thinking about the Keough School, the home for IGD, I kept thinking back to when I was a student at Notre Dame in the late 80s, and how I cobbled together a program of study, an academic study that reflected my interest in development. I didn't even know what it was called at the time. I wasn't thinking of it in those terms, but I was looking, as I got my degree in government and French, but focused on the government side, I kept looking for programs of study that would help me to be able to go deeper into the issues of global development. I actually came into the university thinking I wanted to be a diplomat. And somehow, through experiences with the Center for Social Concern and deepening my faith while I was here, and thinking about the social mission of the church and exploring international relations, I started to move more and more towards a focus on the issues of development. And it's just such a thrill for me to come back after 30 years and see it'll be in this incredible space and in the building next door. And to see what the university has been able to do under the leadership of people like Bob and Scott and Michael and Ray, and where you have come to over the years in terms of having a really robust program of study that not just looks at the issues of development, but looks at them from the particular and unique perspective of a Catholic institution. I'm just thrilled to be able to see that and witness that, and know that the specific vision and plan for the IGD helps students to not just deepen their expertise and their understanding from a professional perspective, but is also very much focused on the practitioner side of it, and looking for opportunities to give students that practitioner experience, which is just so critical. So kudos and congratulations for all that you've achieved, not just for IGD, but for the Keough School and the vision that you have brought to life here. When I think about the plan from a strategy perspective, I was reading through it and thinking about different elements that I think are absolutely critical. The first is that your strategy needs to be grounded in who you really are, in your vision, in your identity, in the mission of the broader institution. And I think the strategy reflects that well. I think, again, it goes back to the mission and vision for the Keough School, and really the central focus around the Catholic concept of integral human development. Thinking about the dignity of the human person, and focused on what we can do as a Catholic institution to be able to advance the social mission of the church. And as a bishop on Catholic Relief Services board said just the other night in just an incredibly moving homily, he said that our work as a church, but also particularly our work as Catholic institutions devoted to promoting integral human development, is about thinking about the world as it is and the world as God intended, and trying to fill that gap in whatever way our particular institutions are called to do. And I see here in the plan just a beautiful articulation of that, of thinking about the unique role of a Catholic institution, the unique role of Notre Dame specifically, and that vision of the church in terms of promoting integral human development, and a plan that helps to advance that vision. I also saw, secondly, in the plan, thinking about it, how it reflects the particular strengths of IGD and again of the university more broadly, and identifies the operating environment and the big changes and issues in our world today, which were so well articulated by Ray, and really tries to find that unique opportunity to make a difference. There are a lot of organizations in this space, as has already been mentioned, and Notre Dame needed to find its unique voice and its unique contributions to be made, and others have already articulated that. And I saw in the plan that the IGD went deeper in figuring out for this particular institute where that value added is. And I think it's reflected well in the themes that were identified, the 5 themes, as well as in the three goals, and being very clear about how the Institute is going to contribute to policy practice and partnerships. I want to talk just a little bit about a couple of those elements of the themes. I won't talk about all 5, but two I do want to emphasize. As is already mentioned, this issue of sustainability is just so critical. And we talk about sustainability all the time, and it's a little bit of a word that we throw around in global development. But I think it has become just so much more urgent and so much more clear how the issue of climate change has the potential to just erase so much of the advances over the last decades. And we've seen unbelievable advances. In this world, this day and age, when we see so much division and so many horrific things happening around the world, I think it's important to step back and look at the progress that has been made. Over the last 3 decades, the reduction in rates of child mortality and morbidity, the reduction in the number of violent conflicts around the world. It's hard to imagine when you look at the situation in Syria, what's happening in Yemen, to think that that it actually, when you look at it across the world, we are in a better place than we were 3 decades ago in terms of violent conflict and people dying in those kinds of situations. At the same time, we also know that in today that we have more people on the move than ever before. Over 65 million people, more people than since World War II, I should say, and they are fleeing conflict, they are fleeing poverty, and they are not welcome in the places that they are trying to go to. And I'm mentioning this particularly because I'm thinking about it in the context, again, of the Catholic Church, our social mission around the world, thinking about it in terms of the rights of migrants and refugees, and the particular opportunities for an institute like IGD to make in terms of policy, in terms of bringing those Catholic values and that Catholic voice to the table to address issues such as these that are just so incredibly urgent and need attention. The other issue I'll mention is just that of business and development. It's another one of those things that we talk about a lot in the global development community, and we have been trying over the years to find ways to better connect with the private sector, and there have been some successes, but there's a long, long way to go. And I just encourage the Institute to continue to explore that. And I would ask that you also add on to your list in terms of looking at corporate social responsibility and other ways of working with the private sector, really thinking about local private sector in low and middle income countries, and looking for ways to help make those connections there, because I think it's one of those areas where, at least from the perspective of an international non-governmental organization, the conversation is sometimes in a place where we're still talking about multinationals and Western businesses, which are big players and important to engage with. But there is a growing opportunity in terms of economic development of locally generated resources and local businesses. And it's an exciting area to explore. And I would mention, just more broadly speaking, in terms of thinking about business and development, we think also in terms of bringing the private sector to bear, but in an approach that is one of bringing multiple actors to the table and looking at blended finance and ways of addressing some of the most challenging issues of poverty by helping to connect the dots across the private sector, the public sector, and civil society. So I look forward to future work with IGD in exploring those particular challenges and opportunities. In terms of the second goal, I do want to mention a little bit about how I was thinking of it in terms of reading through the vision there in terms of learning and practice. And I guess I would just say that at Catholic Relief Services, we are always looking for talent and excellence in talent. And I am just thrilled, again, that the Keough School and IGD are focused on the student experience and thinking about what students need to be able to succeed in this work. And I think Notre Dame is uniquely placed to bring, as Pope Benedict wrote in the encyclical Deus Caritas Est, bringing together the formation of the heart and the professional development. I do think that Notre Dame is unique in that regard, and having that ability to tap into both of those incredibly important elements of being at least from my perspective, the ideal candidate for an organization like Catholic Relief Services. We're also always looking for technical talent, but I have to say that every time I look at, and interview somebody, it goes a lot deeper than that. That's the basic. Then the next thing that's most important, the thing that we're really looking for is that formation of the heart, is that understanding of mission and identity and values. I think the university is, I'm very looking forward to what more and more opportunity for CRS to find new colleagues coming out of these programs. I do want to make a plug and just say that I'm also very grateful that the IGD has taken our Catholic Relief Services Student Ambassador program under its wing. It is important for us to be sure that that program is grounded in practice and has a home at the university that really values it. And I think it's an opportunity, again, just to get at this issue of affecting policy through voice and civic engagement. So it's not just about helping to form professionals, but also to helping citizens of this country to find their voice and make their voice heard in terms of advocacy around the issues that matter to us. And I'm just grateful. I want to thank Michael and Kevin and others who have helped to make that happen. And then the third goal in terms of global partnerships, I remember several years ago talking both to Bob and to Michael as you were exploring these ideas that have come to fruition in creating IGD specifically. And well, first I want to say thank you for listening, because you clearly did listen to CRS and to others, and really thinking about where to focus. And I know that I and my colleagues often said to you, please focus on the practitioner, and please focus on evidence building and support for monitoring, evaluation, and learning. These are areas where we knew we needed more help, and we knew that Notre Dame was well placed to help provide that excellence. But the other area was in partnership, and in the idea that this university is uniquely placed to compete, and to bring people together and to form partnerships. You have a breadth and depth of relationships that is extraordinary. And I was so glad to see that you are directing those to support the vision for integral human development, and that the university is, that IGD, I should say, is prioritizing it even more in its strategic plan. So I will end my remarks there. I find that in reading other people's strategic plans, I have to say the first thing that comes to my mind as I read them is, oh my gosh, they must be so happy it's over. They must be so grateful that they've been able to finish the printer and are now handing it out. Because I know what it takes. I know what it takes to both go through the process of truly listening to people and reaching out and hearing all the various stakeholders, and then honoring all of that input and feedback, and then having to make choices. Some choices that not everyone's going to like, they're not going to see what they wanted to see in a plan, but you have to make choices ultimately. That's what strategy is all about. And I know that's hard, so I just want to congratulate you for what you have been able to not just put together and put on paper, but the process that you use to get there, and the decisions that were finally made in terms of the strategy are clear, they're ambitious, and they're inspiring. And I know I and my colleagues at Catholic Relief Services look forward to continuing collaboration with IGD to bring it all ultimately to life in terms of the lives of the people that we all care about, those who are suffering in poverty, experiencing injustice and violence. So I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and again congratulate you for your new strategy.